Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, guys, where we sit down and dissect the latest and the greatest in film. Today, stupidly, the producer of the show, Dan Allen Gaming, unfortunately pressed record 15-20 minutes into the conversation. So, guys, we are reviewing Bill and Ted 3 today, as well as touching base on the previous two Bill and Ted's. We're joined by Lucky Boy Reviews on Instagram, and of course Jackson and myself. So sit down, enjoy this conversation on Bill and Ted.
The way they did everything, like, it played it off so perfectly on, like, just the times we're in, and how, like, the fact that this movie came out, I think it's like almost 30 years or something after the original movie. So, I mean, it's been a long time. There was no need to, like, actually, like, bring it back, but the fact that they did and how they did it, they did such a good job. I thought that I don't think the girls could carry a film on their own. Like, I feel like if they actually, like, were passing the torch, like, these girls are going to have a movie by themselves, that's not going to do well. But
it's not a Ghostbusters situation.
See, I found that cringy. I found the daughters cringy. I know a lot of people love that element, but I found it quite cringy.
They were cringy, and if it should have been sons. Like, it's kind of like, I know that's a weird thing to say right now, but, like, it should have been their sons, kind of. But the way that they actually did it, like, tied it all together at the end, like passing the torch and all that stuff, I was like, all right, it still, like, tugged at your heartstrings and made you still love these characters. But I just feel like it would have been a little bit funnier if it was, like, goofier sons that kind of knew the characters a little better.
I got a bunch of questions for you guys, so why don't we get straight into our review for Bill and Ted, the series, I guess.
No way! When we figure it out, we'll totally figure it out, dude.
Bill and Ted Face the Music, rated PG-13.
Dude! Give me some of your favorite quotes. Come on.
Oh, hang on. Before we do, let's get the synopsis out of the way for this third movie, because if we don't do this synopsis for our listeners,
we'll never get it.
We're never going to get it done on this episode. There's no way. All right, here we go. Bill as Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan are two totally excellent dudes facing one most heinous history exam. With the help of Rufus... Wait. I've got the first film.
Yeah, that was the first one.
DJ, can we...
Still good, though.
Can we get a rewind
still
here?
Got me excited. Like, I was still into it.
Let's try this one again. Bill as Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan are once again roped into a fantastical adventure. The Anomalous, a villain from the future, sends evil robot us... No, I've got the second film. That's Bogus Journey. All right, can we try this one more time? Last seen on screen is time-traveling teenagers trying to pass history class and win the Battle of the Bands. Bill as Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan were once... I can't even read my own handwriting. Prophesized to save the universe with their rock and roll. Yet to fulfill their destiny 30 years later... Middle age and family responsibilities have caught up with the most excellent of best friends, and despite writing thousands of tunes, they're yet to produce the good one, much less the greatest song ever written. When a visitor from the future warns them that only their track can save life as we know it, the Wild Stallions set out on a new adventure together with the aid of their daughters, a new crop of historical figures, and even a few music legends to set their world right and bring harmony in the universe. Well, and I'm never going to do that voice again because that actually took a lot out of me.
That was a good synopsis.
I couldn't understand a word you were saying.
Neither could I.
All right. Well, I got a bunch of questions for you guys, but why don't we go top level? What did you think of Bill and Ted Face the Music?
Lucas, take it away. We want to hear your experience watching this for the first time.
So I went in honestly with zero expectations. I kind of thought it was going to be terrible. And to be honest, I got really high before it started. And as it was going, like the first like couple of scenes, I was just like, all right, like I knew it was going to be kind of silly or stupid or whatever it is. Like, because the last time I really remember seeing it, when I was really young, and the way they, just like how they set everything up, I thought was so brilliant. How they never actually created the song they were supposed to sing, and they're still like trying to put it together. They still like never paid off. They're still kind of losers. And when they're in that couples therapy session, I was dying. Like, I literally like could not stop laughing. And once that scene happened and it kind of got the ball rolling, I couldn't stop laughing for almost the rest of the movie. Like, I was
Really?
I totally just like locked in. I was like, I get the humor. I get what they're going for. And that's the thing, is because they're not, yes, they're dumb, but they're not that dumb. They're kind of, they're cheaters. They're basically like slackers. They've always been slackers. So even when they're like, we have to create this song, they're like, well, if we've already created in the future, let's just go to the future and steal it from ourselves. And I'm like, it's kind of brilliant. Like, it's not
ingenious. Who comes up with that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's dumb, brilliant logic. And I was like, but that's like a Seth Rogen, like, when it's just stoner humor. Like, when you lock in, you're like, well, how can we get this done? Because we have no idea how to do it. It's like when I was a kid and I would like cheat on a test or do whatever. You figure out the solution to get the problem done, and like, and you're just on this ride with them. And I was in, like, I was just dying, like, because each scene, like, how it like kept like building on itself, and they kept going back and forth. Like, I had no idea where they were going to take it, but I was totally on the ride, and I was literally like cracking up every time they met a new version of themselves. And I loved it. Like, I thought it was great. And the way it ended just had me, it was the first like feel good film of 2020 where that last scene, like, I rode so high off that, and like they had those songs at the end, and I was just like, I literally, whatever high that I was on, I wanted it to last the rest of 2020. Like, I wanted it to just ride it out to the end of this chaos. But so yeah, that was my experience on New Year's Eve.
Have you watched it again since then?
I have. I've actually, so that song that plays in the credits, it's, the band literally has never released a song before. They've never had a song before, and somehow they found these guys. I think they're called We Are Blame It on My Youth, or Blame My Youth. That song that they play, it's like kind of the second song into the credit where they have like the title of the movie pop up. It literally gave me goosebumps. And I've probably listened to that song, I'm not kidding you, like 30 times since then.
Really?
So, it's on the soundtrack. Like, they actually, then I got the soundtrack on iTunes. I've been, like, I haven't had a movie like this that I saw all 2020, where I just keep giving myself like refreshers of just that, bringing back that like good high feeling that I had watching it. So that's how I knew whatever and dude, Keanu, like, the fact that Keanu Reeves came back to this role after 30 years, I mean, he's doing Matrix 4, he's doing John Wick 4, and then he did Bill and Ted 3. Like, there's no reason to go back to Bill and Ted. And the fact that he came back, and then, dude, I was seeing faces that I hadn't seen in 30 years, and it just brought back all that nostalgia, and the jokes that they were playing, like, with these people, it all just worked so well. Because, like, Missy, the hot mom from the first one, was marrying the dad.
It's the same actress.
And then
Is it? I didn't know.
Divorced the dad and married the brother. I was like,
oh, that was great. Yeah,
that was dying, dude. Just every joke landed so well for me that I literally just, there's no part in the movie where even the part with the like daughters, like, I didn't fully buy into it. But even then, when they started picking up all the musicians, I was like, this is amazing. Like, and like the music was so good, and I locked in. Like, whatever it was, it had me 100%, and it never let me go. So that was my take on it.
Jackson,
how crazy is it that 30 years since Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey, Keanu Reeves back in the 90s, he's hardly believable as a big action star because he was the dumb guy in the Bill and Ted movies. He made Speed, Devil's Advocate, and then obviously big action film you might have heard of, like Matrix. Point Break, of course. That was massive, huge break, directed by Catherine Bigelow, Hurt Locker. And now here in 2020, we've come full circle where Keanu Reeves is in a Bill and Ted movie, and he's now no longer believable as the dumb guy because he's been this huge action star. And we're watching John Wick try and mug and gurn on screen, and it feels a little bit awkward, a little bit off, but it's still super charming. I'll give my initial impressions here of Face the Music. So much like yourself, well, I shouldn't say much like yourself, Lucas. I watched this one pretty hungover. I'd had a big night the one before. It's not the first time I've watched the movie under not the best of circumstances here for the podcast. And I actually binged all three. So I did Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey back to back, which for our listeners out there, if you want to check out the Bill and Ted movies, absolutely, I do recommend all three. However, probably don't watch 1 and 2 back to back because it kind of feels like diminishing returns. The second one, it's very creative and ambitious at times, especially given the limited budget, but not everything lands if you watch them back to back because it has a very different tone than that first movie. But Face the Music, I did give it a couple hours break, went into that, and I loved it. It felt like I was seeing friends that I hadn't seen in days or months or years or decades, depending on how far we go into the future with these two. And seeing Alex Winter on screen, who had to have been the highlight of the movie, this guy hasn't acted in anything, at least not noticeably, since he starred and directed in Freaked, which that's a very underrated gem from about 30 years ago. So, look, I don't want to go on about it too long here, but initially I had a really great time. Similar to yourself, Lucas, it was very fun, and it had some of that same goofiness. I guess it was that difficult to get this movie made, and he'd spent such a long time probably with the writers in pre-production, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, who wrote the first two, that you felt like over the last 30 years, they've had all these different ideas percolating of what are we going to do with another Bill and Ted sequel, whenever we're going to tackle this. There's a lot of plot in this movie. And the fact that it's only 91 minutes long, it's probably far too much plot, but that's okay. And I was happy that they had daughters because it wasn't, if we've seen two sets of twins in Bogus Journey, give us something else and give us some strong female characters because unfortunately the princesses, they're kind of the butt of the joke by this third film. They're maybe in an earlier draft of the script, they were having some crazy adventure, but in this it's like, oh, where have they been? They've been to all these alternate realities. Like I thought we could just travel through time in this phone booth. No, they're going here, there, everywhere. Yet the joke is we never really see it.
To that joke that they came back to and they were like, no matter what reality you go to, it's never going to get better with us, so don't even try finding it. Like that whole scene, I was dying also. Like they were basically saying you're never going to, like it's never going to get better in any reality that you're in with us. But I was like, every joke is like kind of that middle-aged guy who knows they're with a girl that's like too good for them. Trying to convince them not to leave, but it's like everything they're saying is just making it so much worse. And I was
Lucas,
like,
forget about middle-aged. Dan and I here in our mid-20s, and I think we very much echo those sentiments. Dan Ellen movies. What were your initial thoughts on Face the Music?
Guys,
particularly as someone who didn't grow up.
I don't want to be a downer because you guys are going pretty high, pardon the pun, on this film. I still enjoyed it. I just didn't enjoy it, I guess, as much as you two did. And I think partly because I don't have the nostalgia like you guys do. I hadn't watched it 10, 20 years ago. I was never really brought up with this film in particular, or these sets of films. But I will say, Alex Winter, I reckon he carried the film. He carried Keanu. I felt like he was phoning it in a little bit, guys. I'm sorry to say. He didn't have the voice from the previous two, like Alex. He didn't have... I felt like he wasn't 100% in it. Yeah, that's just my opinion. So that sort of let it down. Like we touched on earlier, the daughters, a little bit cringy. Some of the plot lines, a little bit too much plot in there. Don't get me wrong, the jokes, for the most part, landed. I was laughing throughout this one.
Yeah.
But by the end, it's... I don't know, maybe it's a little bit... Like, I didn't get the huge payoff that you guys got at the end. I didn't feel that. I more felt like, oh, that's a nice ending. That's a great end. I didn't feel like, whoa, dude, that's amazing, man. I was like,
is that not enough in 2020 to get that kind of nice ending, Dan?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's just a personal opinion. It's probably just comes down to the fact that I just don't have the nostalgia, but. Then again, there's going to be plenty of people that probably check this out like me.
I think maybe what it was too was you either weren't high or weren't a little drunk. Also,
It could be that as well. It's probably
I
definitely that.
think seeing this
Yeah.
movie is 100% sober at our ages now. It's it might you might have just not been on the right level to fully, because even the music at the end, like when they actually started, like the girls are like kind of like getting them to go, and it was like all
Yeah.
kind of a mess, and then they
Yeah.
started like piecing it together. I was just like, yeah. Like I was in it. Like I was like, oh, they're getting it, and all of a sudden the music like actually got, and they're hitting like all the like super happy notes, and I'm just like, I was like elated. Like I literally, and then when it ended, I was just like smiling. And then do Alex Winter's face, man, his smile, like every time he smiled, like literally like melted my heart. I was just like, that guy just radiates like just goodness.
I
Like,
tell
just
you,
like
the
a
closest
good
I got,
human being.
the closest I got to nostalgia was seeing Death Again. That was a great scene. At the
Oh
door.
my god! And then
That was a great scene.
And then they're fighting with him, dude.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like just even
Yeah.
how they played off him, and the girls had to like mediate, and like they were still
Yeah.
like kind of mad at each other. Like I was cracking up almost the entire time.
That scene, I don't remember. Is it the second movie where they're with Death and they're playing the different board games? That is so
Yeah.
funny. That
Bogus
is a
Journey.
great sequence. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Everything with Death in Bogus Journey is like he's William Sadler by the end of that movie has totally taken over. And
Yeah.
every time he spits a line like,
Oh, yeah.
that's 2 out of 3. And oh my god.
Yeah, that was
So
brilliant.
Absolute genius.
mad.
Death,
Yeah.
what a hit.
Oh my god! And we haven't even talked about the robot in the third movie. That's
right.
So that part initially, because he started to get a little annoying towards the end, but in
Yeah.
the beginning, that first part when he like tries to shoot what's it called, the girls, I think, and it misses and hits the cop in the back, and he makes that like ooh. I started dying again because all of a sudden it was like this like insecure robot instead of like this super like high tech like no feel, like it was
Subverting
just-
expectations. Yeah.
it just kind of but it's so Bill and Ted, like it's just a stoner kind of movie where it's just like all of a sudden that robot was funny in its own way too, and it's just so not like anything I'd seen, but it worked for that role so much. And then then I actually had to look up who it was, and it was, I can't remember his name right now, but it was
Anthony Carrigan, who has
who's
been
in
on Barry, which I can't wait to
Yeah.
check out.
and he's so funny in Barry. So once I knew it was him, it just made me like it even more. But yeah, I mean, I 100% get why people might not like this movie, just because it's kind of an acquired thing. Like either it's, for me, it was a lot of nostalgia factor for sure played off in it, and then I have a very dumb sense of humor. Like
So do we. Like
yeah. I always feel like most people say they do, but when I did my countdown, so most of my countdowns that I do on my Instagram, they usually go pretty well. But when I did my humor one, people were getting really. I had like 800 people
What's this that you
unfollow me
mean,
just
Lucas?
from that.
What did you put in there?
Countdown.
What was so
so-
controversial?
My taste in humor.
What were some of the films? What were some of the films?
Okay, so I started it off with number 20 was Hot Rod. I remember that's how I like.
See, that's
kicked off.
similar to this. I think that's a bit of dumb
Dude, and
comedy,
that movie was, yeah. I mean, that's my like. Then it was
Yeah.
Super Troopers, Hot Rod. The way I ended the countdown, my favorite films, like comedic films, are anything Seth Rogen makes, like Superbad,
Yeah,
Pineapple Express. This is the end. Literally every time I watch that movie, I am dying laughing. Like
That's
that
a great film.
humor,
I'm right there with you,
yeah.
Lucas. I love that film. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Seth. Maybe not American Pickle.
No, God, that was awful. It was so painful.
But usually he's it's at least a decent watch. There's usually some funny moments. But yeah, going back to this film, guys, where does this rank compared to the first two? Is it the worst one? It's a bit harsh to say.
The second one's definitely the worst one.
Yeah.
What makes you say that, Lucas?
It might. Well, so kind of what you were talking about earlier with like tone. So I remember when I was a little kid, the first one was kind of like so light and funny, and I just liked the characters, and like then they're traveling back in time, and you're vaguely learning like about history, because that was the first time I'd ever heard of like Genghis Khan or anything like that. Was through that movie. I was kind of learning a little bit through these stoners, and that was my introduction
History lesson.
to it. Yeah, so then when I saw the second one, it kind of actually scared me a little bit. I remember being like very kind of like freaked out because like the really like orange tones when they're like in hell, like, and it was like there was like really creepy elements to it, and I just remember being like a little uncomfortable, and so I never had that kind of same like happy warm, but there's also elements that I really liked about it, but I just remember kind of having. And then death actually kind of was creepy. Like he looks like a creepy death.
Yeah.
And so so that second one was never my favorite, and it was just the sequel. So it's always like the sequels, especially back then. Whenever they rushed out a sequel, it was never the same quality as the first one. It always was like.
Have you seen The Dark Knight by any chance?
But that's the thing is, so in recent years. Sequels, but I genuinely think that television, like episodic television, how they're basically making 10-hour movies now, you cannot have weak sequels that go into theaters. So the sequels, well, I mean, Marvel changed everything. Like that's a whole interconnected universe. But like when you think about sequels, like Predator 1 and Predator 2, or like anything back in the day in the 90s, sequels of Speed 2, like Cruise Control. I mean, like there was just so many bad sequels back then.
For sure.
That were just they were just cash grabs. Like that's literally why they made them, is just to like get some money. But so back then it was kind of, you just knew the sequel was not going to carry the weight that the second one did.
Besides Terminator, you're probably right actually.
Yeah.
There's plenty of sequels. But come on, guys, another
Aliens,
James Cameron film. Yeah, Aliens, exactly.
But that's how you started knowing certain directors were credible, because they were actually making
good sequels.
Yeah, even like because Ridley Scott made the first one. The fact that James Cameron made the sequel to Aliens.
Cameron Crowe's Aliens would be a very different
Jerry Maguire in there, yeah. But but he also made the sequel very much his own, because he kind of made it more of an action movie, but it still totally worked in its own way as well.
When you mentioned something like a sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and then obviously get Bogus Journey, and now another sequel that's come out in 2020 with Face the Music, we're not exactly dealing with the most prestige franchise. Like while Dan doesn't have as strong a opinion, not about strong opinion, but as positive an opinion as yourself, Lucas, and me. Had this been a flop and didn't quite hit, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. Like no. It's not like we've just destroyed some beloved movie franchise, and
that's what I was expecting. Right, for it to be pretty bad.
That's what we've seen so much of. And the first film, $6.5 million budget, brings in $40 million. It was actually one of the most profitable movies ever for Orion Pictures, who Orion again were attached to help produce and distribute this movie here in 2020. Of course, they're going to rush out and get a sequel out there with Bogus Journey, and we use rush, but there's a lot of awesome ideas and creative stuff visually, and it's clear that Keanu Reeves and Alex Winters signed on, did that. The director Pete Hewitt, it was his first time ever film, so it was like, hey, we've got a franchise that hit with some people, and let's try and inject something fresh and something new. And I think looking back on it, we can kind of appreciate that is a sequel that has a heck of a lot of care. Is it the best movie ever? No, far from it. But in terms of a sequel, you get a different take. At least it's not a total retread. And that's hard, especially when you're dealing with something like time travel, when that is so essential and woven into the DNA of the first film. Dan, what did you think when you watched Bogus Journey and it had a totally different take to Excellent Adventure?
It's interesting, because what makes the first one so good was that history lesson element. So I was a little bit taken back at first, but I went with a ride, and I ended up liking it quite a lot. Like, I know, Lucky, you said you thought it was one of the worst ones, but I'd probably have it second out of the three. I thought it was a little bit better than this one, just personally. But I mean, it's tough to do a sequel and try to not retread the same. So I'm glad that they took a different direction in that respect, because if they tried to do a similar thing, it probably just would have come off as even, you know how you said it, you watch them back to back. Imagine if they were like that. So
Well, and then here in the
Yeah.
third movie, Dan, I want to hear your opinion about this. Do you feel like then we get a kind of best of both worlds with these different plots going on? Because we get the daughters going on their own history lesson, like it's excellent adventure. And then while Bill and Ted are traveling through time, they end up in hell. They meet different versions of themselves. They're meeting other evil twins. And just because they're not robots, they're still...
That was the best
it's
part.
An evil self.
That was the best part for the third one for me, because...
You reckon?
All the different characters, like especially the one in the prison where Keanu's buffed up, and just all the different ones, the ones in the house.
So
they were real funny.
British accent, and then Dave Grohl walks in.
Yeah.
God.
Dave Grohl, I couldn't believe that. Yeah.
That's so funny.
They were the standout comedic moments, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the third one blended everything together. Like, to me, it was almost perfect. Like, because it blended the first two together so well. It tied in the girls. Like, all the jokes were kind of still working. And then it was when you
it was well written for a third movie.
Think about how different the first two are, and then how the third movie kind of ties them together, but then still makes it its own thing as well. And it's like, and then I was just super impressed by it. Like, I was because it could have been a train wreck. It could have been so bad. And it just, for me, it wasn't at all. Like, it kind of was like the perfect blend of everything. And then it was still just ended on such a high note. And especially 2020 is a dark year. It's been awful. I haven't been in the theater in like 6 months. And I sat down and watched this movie. I'm super high. I'm revisiting these characters. And the way it ended, I was just like, thank you. Like, thank you. Like, I was just like happy and laughing, and it was so light, and it just broke whatever like darkness I was kind of in. And I was like, dude, whatever Keanu Reeves is like tapped into, because the truth is he's not a super talented actor. He's never been. He may
not be, but he is breathtaking.
He's the best, but dude, he's so lovable. And when you watch him in Bill and Ted, he could have been pigeonholed as that kind of like one dimension stoner forever, and he broke out as like an action hero, and then he was in like romantic comedies. He's kind of done like the spectrum, and then he came back to this role and literally made like the lightest funnest movie I saw all year. And
so
I was
you
like,
guys
thank you, Keanu.
You guys think he did a good job in this film? You don't agree with me?
No, he was the weakest part. Well, I think the daughters were kind of a little, they were weaker, but Alex Winter for sure shined, and Death, but Keanu was like, he was there, but yeah, he was there.
He showed up to set.
He showed up.
You notice that he has like a limp? Like he has like
he has a unique gait. It's from the John Wick movies as well, where he's strutting around. He has to move like this because the poor guy's just so broken.
I think he's from. And so I think he's.
I don't know if it was just from The Matrix, but I'm pretty sure when he filmed the Matrix movies, he might have he might have broken his back or broken his leg.
Jesus.
And I think, and it's progressively over time. Dan, you made a point much earlier here in our episode where you mentioned that his voice was different. The guy's been chain smoking cigarettes for the last 30 years. So
I know, yeah.
You know what? I kind of enjoy that aspect. It may not work as much here as it does in the John Wick movies, but to see this actor and to see a character who carries baggage, at least it feels real, and it gives him another point of relatability. So you said it, Lucas. You look at Keanu and you're like, I have to love this guy.
So you can relate to Keanu.
Oh, for sure. I'll relate to Keanu.
I just love him.
I'm the one. I'm the hero.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big fan of him too. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there's a film I've seen recently of his that I didn't like. Maybe Knock Knock. Have you seen that? That was a bit of a dud. But
I actually haven't seen Knock Knock.
It's okay. It's weird.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of John Wick and the rest of his, Matrix and Speed, and you can go on, Point Break. The guy's got a really good filmography. So
yeah, I mean, he's got weak films in there for sure, but I mean, he just takes risks. Like, it's weird, and like the way he takes risks, like how they pay off is so remarkable. Like, you don't see them like paying off the way that they do, and they like. Brad Pitt was supposed to be in the Matrix, Will Smith was supposed to be in the Matrix, and both of them were like, we don't get it, like this is not for us. And then Keanu's like, I'm in, and then it just becomes like the genre defining sci-fi movie of like the 2000s, and then John Wick is like just a whole other, like that spawned a whole universe, and I'm like, no one really sees these movies becoming what they are, but somehow Keanu like taps.
See, I don't think
something.
you're giving him enough credit, you guys. I don't think he's that bad of an actor.
You know what, Dan? This guy he's a legitimate movie star, and he's more a movie star than he is an actor. I can't think of any Keanu Reeves role where I'm like, that was a snub, or he should have been nominated, or I can't believe that he didn't another. Like, between the two of you,
he better get an Oscar nom for this.
That was an awesome. Yeah, exactly.
No.
Right.
So here's where you'll see why he's. All I have to say is Bram Stoker's Dracula. Like, did you see him in that?
Yeah. He's
okay.
If we're gonna say he's the weakest part of Face the Music, he's still eons better in this than he is in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Exactly. So
and I love that he tried to do another British accent as well in here, but he still missed the mark.
Yeah, but I mean, he's always kind of like the same way Owen Wilson is kind of a little bit always Owen Wilson, and he's still lovable, he's still funny. Like, I always kind of like him, but that's how I think of like Keanu Reeves. Like, he just kind of is Keanu Reeves in most of these movies, and he's able to kind of play off. He knows his strengths. He knows how to like to work with the best of his ability, and he is always likable. Like, I've never like seen him in anything and I wished he wasn't in it. Like, I was never like pissed that he's like, why did they cast him? Like, he's still, even if he's not great or he's not even the weakest part, because he's still so likable in it that
he is likable.
Whatever he emotes, it still works in whatever way he's able to do it.
I do agree with you that this is the happiest movie of 2020, probably by a mile.
Oh, were you happier in this than you were Palm Springs, Dan?
Yeah, probably. Okay. Even though I like Palm Springs better as a film, I probably came out a bit more happy. This was just there was never really anything negative or drowning about this. It was just always laughs, always fun.
And there never really is in these Bill and Ted films, right? Like, Dan, can you think back to some of the mean-spirited sequences with the evil robots in the second one? Like, they've got the princess girlfriends around.
Yeah, but I didn't take that serious.
Yeah,
I didn't take that serious. So, I know Alex Winter. I think he had the robot head as his doorstop for like 20 years. He said in an interview.
Oh my god,
that's a random fact for you.
Amazing.
But what has he been doing, Jackson? Because like, he's a pretty talented guy, obviously.
He's been working behind the camera now for close to the last 30 years. So aside from making some once-off appearances, but nothing, I mean, not even really cameo-worthy, just kind of bit parts, he's mainly been shooting a lot of documentaries and even short films. And I mentioned it earlier, a movie Freaked. If you want to go see Alex Winter kind of uncensored and just going totally off the wall with as much crazy off-kilter humor, laugh a minute, you want to go watch Freak, because it's very much underrated. And if hopefully something like Face the Music brings some eyes to that, then fantastic, awesome. So I'm glad that we saw him back. That's great. And the fact that they've got some other actors and actresses, or I'll just say actors on board, like Anthony Carrigan to spotlight, who, while he does kind of feel like reheated leftovers from Death in Bogus Journey, it still does work. And you know what? Even if not all these elements get time to breathe, just like Dan isn't here on our episode, at least these movies, all of them, are 90 minutes. Face the Music, 91. Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventure, 90. And I think 94 minutes is the longest.
They couldn't be 2 hours. You couldn't have them at 2 hours. That'd be too much. When you say Alex has been doing short films, to me that rings a bell. Like, did he get blacklisted?
No.
Did he not get any roles?
I think it was his decision.
His decision? Okay.
Yeah. And you know what? That fits in so perfectly with the narrative here, because it's just like, there's no negativity. Everything's just fun and lighthearted, and it's just like these movies.
He still looks pretty good for 30 years later, my goodness.
Yeah.
He's going all right. Mm-hmm. But Jackson, why don't we get into your segment?
Jackson's Ratings.
Imdb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
You like that, Lucky?
I did like that.
Very professional, isn't it?
Yeah.
Faithful listeners, I've had some interesting and heated discussions here with Dan Allen Movies. He hasn't been happy with some of the lengths of these statistic segments. And he's not going to be happy with this one, because we're going to go over all three films. I'm just kidding. We're only going to look at Face the Music. I think Dan, he's
I was about to end
ready to finish the recording, call off the podcast. Lucas, you might have been joining me from now on. Okay, here goes. Let's start things off with IMDb. What's been the public reception to Face the Music so far? Well, at the time of recording, from 15,456 user ratings collated on the Internet Movie Database, 6.3 out of 10. Now, I believe that's quite low, especially when we look at some of the critical score, but I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
No spoilers, but I'm sitting around a similar score, so to me that sounds pretty much what I was expecting, but for you guys, obviously a little bit low.
A bit low, but we'll keep things moving. Rotten Tomatoes, Bill and Ted Face the Music is certified fresh. It's had 208 critic reviews submitted so far. Average score again from the critics, 6.73 out of 10. However, 81% of them have given it a fresh rating, 81% tomato meter, which is fantastic.
And remember, comedies rarely ever get 9s and 10s from a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's just,
and
it's
I
just
don't
one of
know
those
if this movie's
genres.
going to get a 9 or a 10 because it's...
Well, if you start giving Bill and Ted a 10, you're a little bit losing some credibility. So
Exactly.
You got to kind of keep some perspective on it.
Exactly.
Lucas,
But,
what do you mean? I mean, we've got these awesome digital sets where it's just so coloured and full of life, and they're totally not empty and vapid, and they definitely didn't run out of money producing them. Come on.
Shawshank Redemption, Lord of the Rings, Dark Knight,
and
Bill and Ted.
Bogus Journey.
Of course. But
Audience
but
score,
still-
yeah?
Oh no, but 81. I mean, but that's the thing is, people still kind of universally loved it. Like even if you like rate it decent, everyone still had a good time with it. Like it's Bill and Ted. Like I mean, it's just like you're just revisiting them, and it was hilarious. Like it was a good time. So I like that even critics didn't just trash it. Like they didn't even try to like hate on it.
Yeah.
They still just had a good time with it.
Oh, for sure.
They could have gone the other way. Yeah.
Audience score, 75% of audiences have given this a rating of 3.5 out of 5 or more, and its average from audiences 3.883 out of 5 from 1,907 ratings at the time here of recording. So a bit different to IMDb, more positive. I love it. The Metascore on Metacritic, 66 out of 100 from 40 critic reviews. And finally, the service that shall not be named, our listeners, you know who we're talking about here, 3.3 out of 5. It's been watched by 24,222 members and liked by nearly 8,000 of them. So that's actually, that's pretty good.
That's
Again,
pretty
just
good
like
for
Dan said,
Letterboxd.
it's a comedy. So for that movie streaming service, this isn't slow. This isn't pretentious. Yes, it's quite complicated with a lot of the plots. So maybe that got the 3 out of 3.3.
Are you on Letterboxd, Lucky?
So I am, but I don't really, I kind of just use it for my own like personal stuff. Like I log, like I have like movies I'm waiting to see in 2020, movies I do see in 2020, but that's about it. Like I'm not reviewing on there or doing anything like that.
Not
I
rating?
I kind of just keep lists like for myself. And then I have like my own like notebooks and stuff I have at home that I kind of keep more. I really should use that more because it is such an incredible tool. But I don't know why I haven't fully like engaged with it that much.
We'll get you
Other
in.
than that, yeah.
We'll
Make
you on
sure
board.
all of our listeners give Lucky Boy Reviews, I should say, a follow on Letterboxd. At least Dan Allen Movies got the right cue.
Hold on.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Oh, my eyes!
I love it.
No context at all. Just Nick Cage.
Dan Allen Movies, can we get a Keanu Reeves wall?
This is the best I can do. You ready? That's the best I can do. Nothing.
I was waiting for you to like fart in a mic or something.
I was waiting for the
This long
cricket.
pause. I was like, waiting for
It's a live show, guys. Bear with me.
We've beaten around the bush here, talking about the ending. how about we bring back that spoiler alert and let's share some quick points on it.
Let's do that.
Some
Spoiler alert.
film.
It's a train wreck, isn't it? Oh,
It's just as messy as this film. My God.
Take us away. One of yous, come on, please.
Lucas, please. You've told us,
Lucas, save us.
that this ending had you on such a high, and I mean,
It
all the
did.
characters joined up. Who did we have? We had Jimi Hendrix. We had Bach. I can't even remember. There was so many people there.
Yeah, and I kind of like that they. I mean, it's 2020, so they tied in like all the just everything, like all the cultural references. Like they tied in all the ethnicities of the different musical. Yeah, the different musical backgrounds that all came together, and everyone, dude, it just was like, it just united everything in such like a fun, like light, fun way. And then yeah, when you see just Jimi Hendrix and then Louis Armstrong, I've always been a huge fan of, and then when you kind of see his portrayal on there too, and then yeah, I mean when they kind of started piecing together the music at the end, and the girls are orchestrating it all, and then they didn't just take it over. They did like give Bill and Ted their moment to like just riff on the guitars, and that moment, and you just see Alex Winter smile when he looks at Jimi Hendrix, and I was just like, oh my God, man. It literally, that moment just made me like just elated. And then there's that moment with the daughter who's took over Rufus's spot, who like it travels back in time and helps him out.
Kristen Shaw, yeah.
Yes. So, and then she was kind of into it, like getting in fights with her mom, and the mom like says like, you did an amazing job. And then that look where she like kind of looks at her and like almost like tears up. I was like, dude, it was just like perfect look. And I was just like, it was just like this emotional punch in every way. And then all of a sudden the music just like takes off, and I was like, God damn, this is good. Like it was so good. And I was super high. So I also just like get,
Did you get the same feeling on the second viewing?
Yes, I've literally replayed the end, the last 10 minutes I've watched, I'm not kidding you, like 15 times, because it just, it makes me so happy. Like I literally will like be sitting, because like whenever I try to like write a review, or like I listen to a lot of music when I write, because it just gets me to that emotional spot.
That's what Jackson does, I think.
I do as well. Yeah, I think Dan might listen to some music while he's at work and doing some of his editing.
Do you know what I listen to?
Dan listens to the Hans Zimmer score from
Docking.
A small film you might have.
The docking scene, you know it. Come on.
Oh, exactly. You might have heard of this film, Lucas. Maybe Interstellar. Yeah, Dan might listen to that a couple times.
No,
Cooper,
I get it. I mean,
it's not possible. No, it's necessary.
It's necessary.
So one of my countdowns I'm going to do hopefully before the end of the year, is I'm going to do my favorite film scores. And
does that make it?
Everyone to watch out for.
Give us an exclusive. Does that make it in?
Does the Interstellar score make it in? There's going to be a couple Hans Zimmer scores.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I still, the first time I saw that movie in theaters, and just how jacked up that sound was, like that scene where like the spaceship's just like kind of drifting off into space, and it just like it's like amped up so loud. I was like,
we're gonna tear up here, please.
Did we miss out by not seeing Bill and Ted in theaters? Do you think?
I want to say maybe, but honestly, not really, because like it was still, I had such a good time with it on my couch, and I wasn't expecting that I don't know if I would have been high if I saw it in theaters, because me being around big crowds, high is not my favorite. And so I think I kind of, whatever it was, I think I hit it on like the perfect way, on the perfect night, in the perfect mood, and it just,
the stars aligned
in such a good way. Yeah, I think so.
Well, if it wasn't 2020 and your expectations weren't so low, do you still think then you would have loved it as much?
I think so. I still think, I do think the fact that 2020 was such a downer year, and the fact that this was such a positive, like uplifting movie, and the way it kind of, dude, because everyone's at you guys aren't from the States, but it's not great here right now. And I live in Oakland.
Trust me when I say
it's not any better here.
Here in Melbourne,
where we've got
It's-
stage 4 restrictions, everyone
Yeah.
is just about at each other's necks as well. There's
Wow.
fingers being pointed and blamed everywhere. We're not going to get into politics here at the We Watch This
Yeah,
Movie
yeah, yeah.
podcast because it's not that, we debate this, but
Of
we
course.
totally understand what you mean.
Yeah. So I mean, it is. So it is. It's universal. Like, and that's the thing
Yeah.
is, then this movie comes and it's like, and just that moment where they're traveling, like the multiple versions of themselves, they're just handing everyone instruments, and they're like, dude, we're all in this together. And I was like, literally getting goosebumps, and then just it just played off everything so well and in such like a great way that this was the perfect movie to come out in 2020. Like I will remember that experience of watching that movie probably more so than when I'm 40 years from now. No one's going to forget 2020. Nobody. Like, this is the roughest year for everybody. Like, we're in we've had depressions before in different countries, different whatever, in America, but this is a global depression. Nobody has ever experienced anything like this on a global scale. So we're all in it. And then I saw this movie locked indoors after like 5 months, and it just broke whatever like depression or darkness I was kind of feeling in that moment. And I like this movie, whatever it is, like it locked in a certain feeling, and I know I'll remember it. It just left me that way. So
Can I ask? Go ahead,
Please do.
Jason. No, go ahead. Go ahead, mate.
Oh, look, I just wanted to make a quick aside here.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about having a song that's going to unite the universe or getting a cure for COVID. If everyone just had a quick glance of Alex Winter's smile, the world would be a much happier place.
Yes.
All right.
Oh my
Can we just put that out there?
That
Be it
guy is a
any thing in
legend.
this film where we get
He is a
Alex
legend.
Winter's hands out.
Yes.
My God.
Yeah.
It's genius.
Even
Dan,
in
what
the
were you gonna
press
ask
junket,
us?
he's such a nice guy. I wanted to ask you in particular, Jackson, and then Lucky you can as well. If you were to come in fresh for this series, could you go straight into the third and have a good time?
Yeah.
I believe, yeah. I believe
Without seeing the
you're still
first
going to
two.
get a kick out of this.
For sure.
No, and forget about, I mean, if you're going to get a third film in the series, there's going to be some kind of either references or a recap. There's got to be established that with the audience that, okay, we've moved on. This is where the characters were then. Here's where they are now, or at least in Bill and Ted's case, they're still in that same spot they were in 30 years ago. Just happen to have daughters and family responsibilities and whatever else. I believe you can still get a kick out of this film. You don't need to have seen the first two, but it will reward viewers who have. What do you think, Lucas?
Same, absolutely. Like, I still think if you watch this movie, and everyone still knows Keanu Reeves from any of his roles, and like you're just watching him in
He's
this
a movie star, an icon.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're seeing him in this movie in a different role where he's just kind of like goofy and silly and super light, and it's like it's dumb, brilliant humor. It's not dumb stupid where you're like literally like, dude, this is too much. Like, you're trying to like get down on that level just to try to enjoy yourself. To me, it was easy. I just slid right in. Like, I was like right on their wavelength.
Do you think Keanu has surpassed the role so much over the years that now in this film you just see Keanu, you don't see the character?
I believe to a certain extent, but I believe some of the charm and how it works in this movie as compared to something like Dumb and Dumber 2 when we had Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey still acting.
Well, sorry to cut you off, but in that respect, when I see
Yes.
Jeff in that role, I don't see Jeff Daniels. But in this, I unfortunately I see Keanu.
Right,
That's what
okay.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah. We'll acknowledge that, but I think I want to talk about specifically. So, all right. Okay, Dan, we'll agree. Yes, it is Keanu Reeves. He's no longer playing Ted Theodore Logan. It has to be him. But while it would work here, and even if a viewer was kind of caught off guard by having Keanu Reeves in what is like a dumb stoner sci-fi comedy, is that it's still smart enough, and it doesn't make you feel dumber having watched and enjoyed this movie.
No.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Dumb and Dumber 2, where Jeff Daniels, not quite the same movie star or television media star that Keanu Reeves is, I think that's safe to say, despite being probably immensely more talented, no offense, because they're not just mugging and doing stupid things to the camera, it's a bit different.
Of
And
course.
you feel like the world in Face the Music has changed with these characters, with the leads.
Well, it's also, we
Well,
don't see Keanu in comedy roles either, do we? Very often.
No,
Not very often.
really.
Exactly.
Not like this. Not like. Well, that's the thing is, yes, I do see Keanu in that role, like as Keanu there, but at the same time, it made me so happy because he's clearly the biggest star that came out of Bill and Ted. So the fact that he came back for this movie
is cool.
Everybody came back. If Keanu's coming back, all you guys are coming back.
Even the producers were the same.
Everybody came back, and it made me so happy. So even seeing him, period, in this movie, he united everyone. That's why we got it. That's why it's here. That's why Bill and Ted showed up 30 years later. Of course, the other people might sign on for it, but Keanu signed up for it. So, of course, why would they not show up at that point? So just seeing him in it made me so happy because that's why we got it. And so it just worked. Like whatever it was, like he just had to be there, and he was. And it was just the happiest movie I saw all year. So
welcome to the Gushing About Keanu Reeves podcast.
Did you think the the daughters Jackson were a little cringe, or did you like that element? I don't think we got your answer on that.
Good question. I enjoyed the element. Did I believe that Bridget Luddy Pierce did a much better job than Samara Weaving? Sure, but I mean, she essentially did a Keanu Reeves impression of him from 30 years ago, whereas trying to channel the same energy and vibe that that Alex Winter was putting out then and now for someone like Samara Weaving, who she is definitely a star on the rise and a bigger movie star than her counterpart. That's a bit hard. So look, I enjoyed having that, and I also thought it was clever that we still had the Oedipal complex, which goes all the way back to the first movie, where we haveAlex Winter longing after his mum Misty, who then becomes Keanu's mum, and then
that's just ridiculous, but it's so good.
And then we have we have Ted's dad, played by Hal London Jr., who I can't believe hasn't been in more movies. He's now become his own son. Just quickly, before we wrap things up here, Hal London Jr. playing Keanu Reeves in Bogus Journey when he gets possessed, like something out of The Exorcist, that has to be a highlight of that film.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, I feel like Richard Jenkins took all his roles, so that's why we didn't see much of him anymore. Yeah, he disappeared after Jenkins kind of took off.
I reckon, you know what, Lucas? Had you told me that before I rewatched Bogus Journey and Excellent Adventure that it was Richard Jenkins in those first two films, I would have said, for sure, no worries.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, why don't we get into our final ratings? We'll start with you, Lucas. Give us your final thoughts and final rating out of 10.
Out of 10? Final thoughts was it's worth the trip. Like, and at that point, you had to pay $20 to rent it. I don't know if it's the same now, but I think I actually bought it for $25 on iTunes. Like, and it's worth the money. I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 5, which it was just a good time. And
7 out of 10.
Yeah, 7 out of 10. Yeah, so yeah.
Jackson,
For me, Bill and Ted Face the Music, this is going to come in at 7 out of 10 theremins and bagpipes because it was a heck of a lot of fun. And even, be it time constraints or more likely budgetary reasons, some of the visual effects and other things don't hit. You just don't care by the end of it because it's so goofy and so charming. And we've said it so much on this podcast. The leads and everyone else are so likable. And not only does this feel like a nostalgia-filled movie for the fans and anyone who might have even just caught glimpses of this back on cable for our US listeners or on the TV set for anyone here in Australia from years ago, you're just going to have a heck of a lot of fun. And what else do you really want in 2020 or could even barely ask for other than that? So that's it for me. Again, it's just going to come in another very good movie. Finally, Dan Allen movies. Where does this rank for you?
No, I had a good time overall. As much as maybe I was a little harsh on it, I did still enjoy it. So I'm going to come in at just a little bit lower than you guys, a 6 for me out of 10. But if I was to rate the first two, you know, it could be 7, 8 in the picture. I haven't worked it out 100% yet, but for this one, yeah, 6 out of 10, and I would recommend it at a 6 still, because it is a lot of fun, and as you said, it's just a happy movie. These two are the happiest guys alive, and in 2020 we needed it, didn't we? So
we really did. And it's important that we have someone on this podcast playing devil's advocate as well. Who's going to come on and who's going to hate Keanu Reeves? That's the next question. I think that's possible.
All right. Well,
that's the
before
other thing too. Is I feel like
Yeah.
if all of us were in the same room watching that movie, you feed off each other. Because like my fiance was ready to hate this movie. Like she did not like I could tell right off the bat she like was just kind of rejecting it. And I was laughing so hard that by the end, she was laughing really hard too. Because
Really?
it's like being in a comedy club
important.
where you're like feeding off each other and feeding off the energy. So when you're just around the people that are enjoying something so much, you kind of just sync up and get on that level. And it's just so light and fun that I feel like this is a movie you should watch with friends. You should watch with people. Like there's certain movies you watch by yourself. There's certain movies you watch like in a theater, and there's certain movies you should watch with friends. And this is definitely one of those, I think.
All three films are like sleepover or slumber party movies.
Yes,
Isn't that right, Dan?
exactly. Exactly.
they are, but I mean, I can't have any friends over, guys, at the moment. So you're not helping the case. Anyway, guys, before we head off, why don't we all maybe give a Keanu recommendation? How does that sound?
Ooh,
One
I
movie
like
to
it.
the audience from
that is
Keanu
good.
that we can recommend. I'll throw you on the spot, Jackson.
Oh,
Why don't you kick us
Don't you
off?
just love putting me on the bus here, Dan Allen movies?
And he's scrambling hard.
There's nothing that gives you even more satisfaction. I'm definitely not sitting here and fluffing while all the gears are turning in my head, and I'm desperately trying to search for, something unknown, maybe something that kind of exists there, just
Well,
hanging about. Yeah, please,
I
what were you gonna say?
I can start us off if you really want me to.
Please
Um,
save me.
I don't know if I can recommend it, but I'm going to anyway. Neon Demon. He doesn't pop up
Oh,
very.
yeah.
He's not a big pop up, but it's a very experimental horror thriller that I think a few of our listeners might like, and I think it's swept under the radar a little bit. Have you seen it, Lucas?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Let's see. Hold on. Say it again one more time.
The
Sorry.
Neon Demon. Was that the Nicholas
The Neon
Sparks
Demon.
film?
Yeah. With Elle Fanning.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge Wendy and Refn fan. I love Drive, but
Who doesn't?
I think like for me it's a little too style over substance, and there's always
too,
elements
me
I
too.
like, but it's hard for me to get through a lot of his movies where I'm like
I'm 100% agree.
They're very
Yes.
they're very impenetrable because it's you kind of just you're watching all these really cool techniques and it's very colorful, but there's not much meat on the bones.
Yeah, it's like watching like kind of a music video that's extended for 2 hours sometimes. But I mean, still Drive was by far my favorite of his films, and I keep trying to like get into his other ones, but I just haven't. And actually, Neon Demon's the one I like right after Drive, so at least it was still
Same
better.
here. Yeah.
But it
They're the
still
only
is,
two
like,
I actually like from him, to be clear.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny, I actually forgot Keanu even had anything to do with that movie. But
Well, it's
Yeah,
not a
so
big
I mean-
role. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
I
But,
tried to go obscure because I could say The Matrix, but
yeah.
I think we've all seen that one.
Oh, Toy Story 4, of course.
Oh,
what's
yeah.
gonna be-
yeah.
Lucas, what's going to be your Keanu recommendation? The wheels are well and truly off the wagon here, people.
Yeah, well, I mean, my favorite, even still, like over, like as much as I love the John Wick franchise, they're my favorite, but I still,
Ooh, yeah.
Point Break is still kind of my favorite from him. Like, I love Point Break. So if I ever had to recommend a Keanu movie, it's always Point Break to start off.
Yeah. And that was shot a bit in Australia, wasn't it?
I think that final scene,
The final scene,
with
yeah.
Patrick Swayze on the beach, and he's like
Yeah.
gonna handcuff him. He's like, and he sends him out. Dude, that movie, it's so good. Like,
I think
it's
I've been to
literally-
that spot, actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think
But
it's...
yeah, that movie,
yeah.
that's epitome. That's Keanu in his prime, where he's like super in shape too, and he's just like a surfer, and like all of it. Like that was '90s and like my childhood, like all of it.
Was that after Bill and Ted? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was Keanu Reeves on the
That
on
was
the
in his
rise.
30s, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, I have a movie for you. I was struggling for the name. Let me know if you've seen this before. My Own Private Idaho, starring River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves, a Gus Van Sant film. It's very gay. We've got male prostitutes, male sex
Yeah.
scenes. I can see Dan shaking his head already. We might bring back that movie challenge, Dan. Maybe you're going to watch My Own Private Idaho. However,
We're not bringing the movie challenge back anytime soon.
it has everything you could ever want from a pretentious movie. It's got Shakespeare soliloquies, lots of interesting vignettes and cutaway
Kill me.
sequences. But Keanu Reeves doing a very different kind of role, very early in his career, very brave.
Yeah.
It may not be the movie for everyone, but listeners, if you want to check something out, another interesting performance from him, go watch My Own.
And I'll tell you what,
Idaho.
not to watch Replicas. That might be his worst film ever. That is so bad. That is terrible.
I actually never saw that one.
Oh,
No.
shocking. It came out, I think, 2018. Just abysmal writing. Just
out of curiosity, though, what do you guys think of Gus Van Sant as a director?
Oh wow, that's
Way
only a
off the topic.
whole other can.
we don't have another hour, do we?
Okay.
Oh God, I'll
Yeah,
say
I
this.
don't-
I'll say this. I think all three of us here, we are all fans of Good Will Hunting.
Oh
Can
my
we
God.
agree?
It's
Yeah,
my
of course.
It's my number 3 favorite movie of all time, dude.
There we go.
Finding Forrester's in my top 25.
There you go.
Really?
Lucas. We've already named 2. So Gus Van Sant. I think we can bury the hatchet here.
Can
and
I?
come back to that.
I want to say I did not like The Sea of Trees, Lucas. I hated that film.
No, well, I'm not like that's the thing is I'm so torn on him that I'm always curious to see what other people, because his work is so all over the place. When he gets something right, he like nails it, and then other times he's so. But I don't like. I don't know how I actually feel about him, because the movies that he's made that I love them so much, and then I want to support all of his stuff, but I'm just like, I don't know where I land with him ever. Like it's I
don't think I've seen all his films, but I have seen Milk. That was another one I really liked.
That was a good one. Yeah. That was great. Did you see He Won't Get Far on Foot? That one with Joaquin Phoenix?
No, is that a recent one?
It's recent, yeah. So it's about a cartoonist in Portland who's, I think, a paraplegic, and Jonah Hill's in it, and Jonah Hill steals that movie. He's great, and he's like, I think he's in rehab. They're all in like rehab, and Jonah Hill is Joaquin Phoenix's sponsor, and he is pretty hilarious, but he doesn't really mean to be funny. It's more of a serious role, but he does a great job in it. But that was another pretty strong Van Sant movie, but it's not great, but it's still pretty solid if you wanted to check that out.
Wow, he is all over the place.
Yeah,
just hearing a bit of that. Yeah.
Gus Van Sant loves exploring some of those characters that kind of live on the fringe, or they're a little bit outside the norm, but they've all got they've all got this potential within them to do something very interesting, and they feel real and emotional. There's something that you can hang on to, whether it's Elephant or Jerry. Probably less his Psycho shot-for-shot remake, but hey, that's another episode.
I've never seen Elephant. Never seen it.
Oh God, we might have to cover that someday, but I know you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Lucas.
Thank you, guys.
Is there anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram, that's kind of where I keep up with pretty much daily. I really try to interact as much as I can on there. So that's at Lucky Boy Reviews. But
very aesthetically pleasing page as well, guys. So.
Thank you.
Very important.
Very important for me.
So that's the thing with my Instagram, is I think of it like a movie, like what it's all kind of encompassing. Like you have to have the visuals, the writing, like all of it. Like I want it to all feel the way that I feel when I watch my favorite movies, is kind of how I want the Instagram to feel in a way, but it's also tied into every aspect of things that I love. Like I am Irish. I was raised Irish Catholic, so it's got like kind of the Irish ties. It's old school Hollywood because I travel the country. I visit historic movie theaters. Like when you go to so when we were talking about Interstellar and you hear that soundtrack, I was in a palace when I saw that movie. I saw it in a 1930s movie palace with state-of-the-art speakers, and you're literally watching movies that were built in cathedrals that were made for movies in the 20s and 30s, and that experience of seeing a movie, like it's literally magical. And so yeah, my kind of site ties into like that aspect of what I love about the movies. And I mean, yeah, I have a ton going on right now as well, so it's I can't wait to like share kind of everything that's in through the Instagram. You'll be able to kind of, I'll be keeping up with everyone and sharing what I'm currently working on. So.
I can feel the passion just from the writing on your page. So yeah,
we can hear the passion now.
Yeah, it is, man. I mean, it's when you love something, and I've, like I said, like it's Bill and Ted was one of my foundation movies. When you're a little kid and you have sleepovers, or I have 2 sisters and a brother, and we would just watch. And that's the other thing is, when you're a kid, you watch movies that you like 20, 30, 40, 50 times. Like it's like, and you know those movies, you know these characters, you can quote those lines. And so even now when I watch the new Bill and Ted, I'll watch it like once. And then we watch so much content now that you're not rewatching the movies you love on the same level you did when you were as a kid. But I already feel like if I were to like watch that as a kid, there would be so many lines that I'd be quoting that we just don't do now that we're adults. And so it's that was another reason. That's probably why I watched the last scene at least 15 times, because that was like the highlight for me. But it is, I feel like even if I was in a room with you guys and we could watch that movie, it would just be, then they become inside jokes. You start like referencing them to each other and you connect through film. And that's me. That's movies. That's like when you know me, if you were around me, that's how I connect to everybody. Like I talk movies. People know me by movies. Like it's literally who I am. There's like very other few dominant aspects of my personality other than movies is it. And so yeah, exactly. But
it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Lucas. We're going to definitely have you back. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Jackson, where can the listeners find us?
Listeners, we would love you to follow the We Watch This Movie podcast. We Watch This podcast on Facebook, on Letterboxd, on Instagram, on Twitter, even on TikTok. You can find Dan Allen Movies at Dan Allen Movies on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, pretty much everywhere. You can find myself at Marshall on Film on Facebook, Letterboxd, Instagram, even on TikTok. You can find Dan's dog Winter here on our recording of We've got an exclusive interview with the director of Ghost, Rob Savage. What an interesting movie in 2020 that came out. And finally, last but definitely not least, we're so grateful to have had him here on today's recording, Lucas, aka Lucky Boy Reviews. As he's mentioned, you can find him on Instagram. With that, I am Marshall on Film. Our special guest Lucas is Lucky Boy Reviews, and Dan is
Dan Allen Movies.
This is the We Watch This Movie podcast, so and we are out of time. You are most welcome. Next week's episode, The Devil All the Time.